Yes. Hello, everybody. Oh, wow, we got a lot of comments. Hi, guys.
Hi everyone, how's it going?
Hey, Victoria's here. Monique is here. Rich is here.
Rich Freeman, I can see. So I just see the pop-ups.
Yeah, and if you
Okay.
want to see more of the comments, you can open up a separate tab on your browser to look at them, like on a
Cool.
computer or something like that. So, um, yay! Okay, wow, I'm so glad everybody's
Nice.
here. This is gonna be awesome. I'm just gonna do a few little announcement-y things, but if you want to tell us in the chat how you're doing, what you're reading tonight, if anything, what's happening in your new year. Did you have a good New Year's celebration? Just tell us about it.
Yeah,
um,
please.
so I wanted to also, so tonight we're just going to be working on stuff. We're going to be reading, but you can do whatever you want. You can do a work project. We're just going to have like timed sprints for working, and then we'll have time when we can just chat. So I'm really happy to see that Rich is reading Crime and Punishment. That makes me very happy. Danny over here was, of course. Oh, and there's Ami. Um, hey, Ami.
Hello.
Danny, of course, was our fierce leader for the Dust CP 2020. So always happy to see a new Crime and Punishment reader. Okay, so Noah will probably be back, I'm guessing, in a minute. But why don't we have you guys introduce your channels, and then we'll talk about what we're all reading tonight. Do you want to start,
Okay,
Danny?
sure. So I'm Danny. I'm from Spinelli Speaks. That's my channel name. I don't know why I picked that because it doesn't have the word books in it, but I'm sticking with it. I don't care. But yeah, I've been on BookTube. It's been a little over a year now. I started in November of the previous year, and I read a little bit of everything. I have a master's degree in humanities, which covers literature. So I have always been a reader and a critical reader. So reading something like this with a group of people is really, really exciting. I've not ever read anything from this author before. And that's actually how I came to even be part of this group of people reading, because I think it was a book haul, Noah, that I had, Love in the Time of Cholera. And you're like, oh, let's read 100 Years of Solitude. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just love being part of the community. I have been so fortunate in getting to know so many amazing people on this platform. Noah, Christy being one of them. Ami, you are new to me, so I'm excited to get to know you through this read along. So, or buddy read. So, I'm really just super excited to continue to meet new people and do more buddy reads and read great stuff. So, thanks for having me, Christy.
Yes, I'm so glad to finally have Danny on my channel. She's had me on her channel so many times, and it was wonderful. So this is really a treat. And yes, yeah, so we're all actually reading 100 Years of Solitude together. So that's kind of why we're all here tonight. We're doing this. It's kind of like a read along, and we're going to have a live chat at the end of this month, somewhere around there on Noah's channel. So be watching out on his channel if you've read the book or you want to read it with us. We would love to have you chat with us. So, and so, Ami, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Ami. My channel is Ami1649 with some suffix at the end. It's a little bit long. And I've been making videos for about a year, and it's been like a really rewarding, fun adventure. Just meeting people and engaging the mind in that way. And I mostly do sort of like analysis and reflections on sort of things that I've read. That's it.
Ami's channel is awesome. We've been friends for a while. He read my first book club pick that I did.
Hunchback.
Yeah, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. He was like the first person to come hang out on my live streams on Facebook. So I'm really glad to have him here on my channel. It is a treat. He has deep stuff on his channel. It's deeper than me for sure. And I'll put his channel name up here for you guys so you can go check out his channel. Noah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. So awesome to be here, guys. I swear we just on this one here, we have the funniest, right there. We have the funnest right there, and we have one of the best. I won't say the best because I mean, I don't want to. I don't want to blow. I want to blow that little head. But one of the best booktubers, and I mean, I get excited when I see anything by any of you, you guys and gals. I watch it as soon as I can. Very cool. I love books. So I'm Noah. The channel is Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse. It's a play on my favorite author, Flannery O'Connor. Everything that rises must converge. I've hit my 1 year mark on BookTube just yesterday. I started it on January 1st of 2020, and it's been an awesome year because of it, to tell you the truth. I feel like I really found a groove with BookTube and with doing what I do. I like talking books and all that. And my first read of 2020 was Stoner by John Williams. It's an amazing book, and I wanted to have just a pleasurable, wonderfully written experience of a book for my first 2021 book. So that's why we're doing what we're doing here. So I appreciate y'all all jumping in on the read along, and we're gonna have a lot of fun.
Yes. Now it's funny, the inception of a couple different read alongs this year have happened on live streams with Danny and Noah. So that's been a fun time.
I want to encourage a musical bookworm. Says that she's going to attempt to start 100 Years of Solitude with us today, running it. That's awesome. Lucas from Bits of Lit is reading 100 Years of Solitude with us as well. That is not, in the core of booktubers here. We got Summer at Cozy Reading Quaker Cats is there. Thank you, Summer.
Hey, Summer.
Congratulations. Summer's in the discussion, with us, and so is Una from Codex Cantina. They're not going to be here on the live, but they're part of the core group that's going to champion this thing through January.
Yes. Yeah, so that's what we're all reading. We are reading the 100 Years of Solitude. If you're just coming in, that's why the four of us are up here right now.
Has anybody started it yet?
Not really.
I have.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah, Ami was working on it. I haven't started yet. I figured I'd start it on the live stream here.
Now, I know when Krista also does reading sprints on her channel, which I love. When she does reading sprints, this is Ami's channel once again, she usually does them for like 15 minutes. And I've never done a 15-minute sprint before, but I think that's a fun idea to like get us started. I think we should start with a 15-minute sprint of whatever work you guys want to do. You can read, you can work on something for your job, whatever you need to do. And then we can come back and chat about our progress. So I think we'll start with a 15-minute sprint, and we'll start at 15, and I'll put that in the banners here. And then we'll go until 30 for whatever time it is for you.
Ami just left us. He's got something to do. I wanted to see if it would be really cool for me because Ami has read this before. I would love to hear his experience with the book first, like what he remembers, not what he remembers of the book, but what he remembers of the reading experience, and why he wants to reread it at this point. And, maybe share those things.
Yeah, that'd be awesome when he has a minute. Why do you guys want to read this book? I'm just curious. So, Danny, you said it's because like Noah was talking about it. And that's kind of the same for me. Because I heard that from one of you two, either Noah or Danny, I had heard that you guys were planning to read it together. And I was like, I want to read it.
Yeah, you really don't have to twist my arm much to read something with you.
Right. Right.
Someone has to say, hey, do you want to read that together? And I go, yeah.
Okay, so that's mainly why both Danny and I are reading this right now.
Yeah, so I mean, while you walked away, I was wanting to ask you uh, if you would give a little bit of your first experience with this book. Una's in the chat too. A little
Sure.
bit of your first reading experience with this book, and some remembrances of that maybe, and then why you want to retouch on it.
Sure. So it was about 10 years ago. I was in college at the time. I can't remember what precipitated it, like what triggered it exactly. I guess it was just that some of my friends had read Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and we spoke about it or something, and just like decided to read it too. And I remember loving it. And after that, like the same year, I went through like as much Gabriel Garcia Marquez as I could find. So I haven't read everything he wrote, but I think like five Marquez books or something like that. And yeah, I love him. I wonder. I think my appreciation might have changed over the past 10 years. Like I think I'll read it differently. Interestingly, it's a book that I've recommended to a lot of people and like a lot of friends. And interestingly, I've gotten a mixed reaction from the people that I've suggested it to, which is interesting. And I can think of one person in my life who recently said to me, like, you got to make a video about 100 Years of Solitude because you recommended the book to me. I read it because of you, and like I didn't get it. so that's why it's helpful to sort of revisit it and with fresh eyes.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. Very cool. Thank you, Ami.
Wow, we have an expert.
I read it maybe 5 years before you, like, so maybe 15 years ago, and I was blown away by it. It was awesome. I as well suggested this. This was like a go-to. It's a very safe suggestion for any reader. If they're a reader and they like reading good stuff, then 100 Years of Solitude is a good go-to. Not to say that it's simple or something like that, but I mean it is a straightforward narrative. We're just gonna have a lot of fun with it, y'all. But I loved it. I also read quite a bit of Gabriel Garcia Marquez after I was after I had experienced 100 Years of Solitude, and I love him. I love him. And I maybe 3 years after I read it, I had somebody that was a close friend read it, and it was just such a joy to experience it through somebody else reading it and enjoying it. And I haven't had mixed reactions really. Somebody's either read it and loved it, or they just haven't read it. You know what I mean? So I think that I think we're just off for a good read here. But of course, it's going to be great to hear. I've never had such a varied uh, group of readers around me in my life as this past year being on book. You know what I mean? We all. I mean, I watch like Leslie over at Nerdy Narrative is talking about stuff that I've never ever read. You know what I mean? But I love watching her channel. We have this interaction. So you have these book friends that even in real life, if they do read books, we still wouldn't really talk about books with each other. Not really, not deeply. So this is really really fun to do reads like with a group of people, and then have you never know I mean what people's backgrounds are, what their perspectives that they're bringing to the table, and all that, and it's just gonna that's what makes this kind of thing really fun to me.
Yeah, reading it together with everybody's different experiences should make it unique and fun. Okay, so it's 5:16. I just changed the banner to say 20 because I was like, oh, well, maybe we'll talk a few more minutes, but I think this is a good time to go. So let's get started reading. Let's go until 30. I'm going to change the banner back. So let's go until 30 and
Okay.
and we'll come back and chat in a minute. Alrighty, guys, and let us know down below what you're reading in the chat or what you're doing too for the 15 minutes.
Good luck.
Good
Good
luck.
luck.
Go. Hey guys, how did you do? Okay, I didn't get very far yet, but I'm already in love. There's so much magic. Let's see. How did you?
Did
I
you
shouldn't ask how far you guys got. I
do
only
you
read like a
recognize it as
page.
magic at this
So
point, though?
it has like a feeling of magic. It's not like wand waving, but like okay, listen, it just if you mention alchemists, I'm just
Right.
like magic, yay. So there's a heavy gypsy with an untamed beard and sparrow hands. I love that sparrow hands because they're like little birds. They move so fast and they startle. Like that just is such a great descriptive image. And he introduced himself as Melchiades, and he put on a bold public demonstration of what he himself called the eighth wonder of the learned alchemists of Macedonia. And to me, that is just like, it's like, it just sounds so mysterious and magical, and I love that tone. That's what I read fantasy and science fiction to find. So finding it in literature is always a great treat.
See, and for me, when I hear alchemists and when they're talking about the telescope and everything, I hear more like on the science part of it. So like I'm hearing a lot of scientific things, and when they're blending the mercury and different elements, to me alchemy is more scientific than it is magic. So it's interesting to hear that you're very much on the fantasy side of it, and I'm very much more on the like reality of it all, and how they're just starting, like the part when he says something about, yes, the earth is round like an orange. Science to me. And then you may be like, oh, it's so fancy, it's fantastical.
Yes, yeah. Oh, that's so interesting. You're right. There are like a lot of mentions of like scientific-y type things. So
Well, and I think that's the best part about reading together with a group of people, is because everyone is going to read a different way of this book, and having that to bring it to a full circle is just, this is why I always say, yes, I'll read with you.
yes, it's so fun to hear everybody's reactions.
How about you, Noah and Nami? You guys have read this before. What are your thoughts?
Well, I love hearing what you guys think, and I love that discussion about the relationship between like science and alchemy and like science and magic, because it's like a modern conception really to separate those things.
Right.
And this book is happening in a place where those lines are very blurred. And I just that scene in the first chapter, I wasn't reading the first chapter, I was reading later, like around page in the 70s. But that scene when Jose Arcadio comes to the conclusion that the earth is round like an orange, and it like blows his mind, and he's like walking around in a daze, and like everyone thinks he's completely crazy. It's like one of like the funniest moments for me in this book. It's like so wonderful. But yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit further on, so I'm in this like stage where there's like everyone in the chapter, in the part that I'm reading, like all the main characters are just like forlorn and despondent over love. I won't say any more than that, obviously, because I don't want to like give anything away. But they're all like, there's a great line in there when Jose Arcadio, the father's like, "Love is a curse." he's like so upset. But yeah, it's wonderful.
Very cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
I can't wait to get there.
I was just struck, I mean, I started right at the beginning. I only got, maybe 9 pages into it. I think that I was just struck by how beautiful the imagery, and it's normal stuff. We're talking about magnets, we're talking about, but to them, it's the gypsies bringing things that they've never come in contact with before, and it's normal everyday stuff, but the language and the way that it's delivered is something that's otherworldly almost. And I was just struck by the beauty of it, really, because I'm just in that spot where I'm just going to experience this again now, in just let it wash over me. and take it. Hey, Brian.
Yeah. Hey, Brian. So there's magic coming. Is that what you're saying? Because that's
Oh, there's magic.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a complete. I mean, it's what it is. It's a realism with magical not to say
Right.
supernatural, but magical elements. Um, this
It
kind of
reminds.
stuff is beautiful. It turns out to be like metaphorical when you experience these kind of things. You're like, well, okay, well that can't really happen, but what did happen if that didn't happen? Like, what is going on here? And it just instantly brings you into something else, into some other part of your mind, not necessarily only mind, but just your another part of your being when you're experiencing something like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If I could pick up on that thread, because I've been thinking about this a lot in preparation for this read along and thinking about this genre. And what I've been thinking about is how, like, when you read books, the medium in which we're experiencing them is the mind. And it's like a kind of imaginative experience. It's a kind of like scripted hallucination or like scripted dream. And what I feel like Gabriel Garcia Marquez taps into is he writes in the logic of dreams. Like, he writes in the logic of a hallucination, where
Right.
reality is more fluid and like more flexible, and the laws aren't so strict because like all books are operating in that space, but in a way like Marquez is more honest because he writes in that space as well.
I think you're onto something there. Because that's just like, it's hard to define the genre of magical realism. Like, what is really, what does it mean? And I think it's really just that the realness can flex into a complete imaginative territory, which isn't necessarily unreal. Because we all imagine, we live in our minds and our imaginations just as much as our senses, and observable, like, objective reality and subjective reality. Um, Everybody places a different value on the type of reality that we're talking about there, but what it ultimately comes down to with that is that individual's own thing as well.
I have a question for you guys, and I think in general, I feel like life is pretty magical, so I have no problem with combining science and magic in my head.
Right.
But I'm not a chemist like Rich over here or Kate's husband. I loved this comment from Kate. My
Right,
chemist
yeah.
husband would argue. So great. So I have a question for you guys. Do you guys read the introductions of books when you start like a book like this? Would you recommend reading the introduction first? Because I started with the introduction and I was reading and I was like, should I just skip to the story? Because a lot of times I will just skip introductions because they spoil things.
Yeah, mine doesn't have an introduction.
Oh,
Not
okay.
my
I would
not my
say
hard not my hardcover, so I just went straight to it.
Yeah, my
Okay.
my copy doesn't have an introduction either, but I always skip introductions because they give away plot points and they're very spoilery, and they also, from the introductions that I've read in the past, they kind of give you a direction of how to read the book, which has always been kind of irritating to me because I want to read the book the way I interpret it and then come back to the introduction later and see, what I may have gained from the book and what others may have said about it as well. I want to have my own interpretation of the text and what the author meant to say or what critics think the author meant to say. So for me, I totally skip introductions. And the point in my life where I did that is I went to read Alice in Wonderland, and the introduction to that ruins the entire experience of the book because they that particular introduction just described everything, and I was like, well, why do I even read this now? Because you're kind of giving me all of the plot points.
Well, thankfully we have Noah and Ami here to tell us what we need to know before we start reading here.
Yeah, right. We'll get into some territory where you'll see. There's just no. We're all gonna be in that space of just a fluid. What is what is going on kind of thing, and there's no wrong answers. You know, I would say with fiction, like a straightforward narrative fiction, most of the time I would caution against reading introductions because they can only be detrimental. But to all kinds of study, any kind of introduction to any kind of study, sometimes the introductions are some of the best part of the book because it is something that's perceptive and gives you a way to work into something that you might be trying to really work into as far as nonfiction or spiritual study for sure.
But even in fiction, I can think of examples where I felt like a book was sufficiently foreign where I found introductions helpful. But for me, a book like 100 Years of Solitude is like the epitome of inviting. It's not like it's not like you're going to be struggling or floundering. And so then in that case, it doesn't. To me personally, I wouldn't do it. But if it was like a book where I felt like, okay, this is actually going to be like a really unusual kind of fiction experience, like then I have often looked for like supplementary material to make it easier for me to work my way into it. But yeah, not this book.
Yeah. Kate Howe says a negative chapter, like chapter -1. You start off on. You start off below the zero.
So true.
And I mean, Stephen King personally, like he will ruin his own book in his introductions, like spoil his own book. It's ridiculous. I've he's done interviews where he's talking and he's like, yeah, I mean, it's about the experience. I want to scare people, but I'm not gonna sit here and I'm like, what why would you do that with your own book?
Why would you do that?
But
this seems to be the general opinion. Introductions should just be afterwards.
Right. There should be an afterwards kind of thing. And if somebody wants to go and get something before, I definitely see what Ami is saying about if something is completely out of your wheelhouse or actually from a culture that you that you can't relate to, in any kind of way, you need something to get your bearings, something to have some kind of to have your feet on the ground with it, and then it can be helpful, but it's not going to make or break the experience if the fiction is done sufficiently well.
Okay. Now, Brian earlier said that he thinks I'm going to like this because it has a lot of characteristics of fantasy, world building, some magic, and surreal events. So that's kind of exciting. So if you're in the chat and you like reading fantasy, maybe read along with this. I mean, really, it kind of have you guys read Paulo Coelho at all?
I have not.
Okay. He wrote
The
Alchemist. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry. Yes, I misheard you. Yes, I've read The Alchemist.
Is it?
It's on my shelf, but I haven't read it.
Okay. I'm wondering if it's comparable to that. I don't know if anybody in the chat has read both.
I think the chat is saying yes.
Yes?
Yeah, I mean, thinking back, I think you get those vibes. I feel like The Alchemist was more spiritual.
Yes. Yeah.
But definitely the same magical realism, I think, that we're seeing starting here. Yeah.
Okay. That's exciting. I loved that book. Okay.
This book, I mean, 100 Years of Solitude is definitely fantastic. Like, as far as the fantasy aspect, it's fantastical, So, there's enough of that where if that's your thing, you're going to be satisfied, I'm sure.
Yay. That can do a lot for me in a book. Has anybody read oh shoot, what's the one who wrote the Midnight? Salman Rushdie?
Rushdie, yeah, sure, yeah, Salman Rushdie.
So I tried to read Midnight's Children, and I loved the tone of magic, but like I just had some other problems with the book, so it wasn't enough to carry me through that entire gigantic book. But this, I'm hoping this one will be. It's also this one's a lot shorter than that one was, so that's cool. I'm hoping this one will drag me along a little better.
Are we listening to
Oh,
Killer?
Huh?
Yeah, I am.
Nice.
I bought this album. I bought this album today. It was like one of the essentials when I got my record.
Sure.
I said, man, I need Court of the Crimson King like now. I
It's also
also got
perfectly situated behind your shoulder.
yeah.
Just the way.
I put it up so we can see it. I also
Yeah.
got Jethro
Not familiar
Tull's
with
A Play.
Oh, that's Jethro Tull's Passion Play. Wow, I had no idea what the cover art was, but I love
The
Jethro
Passion Play.
Tull's Passion Play. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I got them today.
Brian did not like Midnight's Children. I'm curious to hear why. Be interesting.
Yes, we must talk. I didn't
Yeah.
really like it either. So, but you liked it, Ami?
I have not read Midnight's Children. I
Okay.
have I think I've read. This is going back a bunch of years. I think I read about half of Midnight's Children, and I think I liked it. So it's a very inconclusive statement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm interested. This one is such a title, man. It just grabs you. But I don't know.
So that's actually, I don't know if it was Midnight Children that I read half of, or the Satanic Verses. Actually, I have to go back and check. So anyway, I'm unclear, but I remember the half of the Salman Rushdie book that I liked. One of those two, I remember liking. So anyway, half that I read.
that I read. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so I'm sort of new to magical realism, so I'm digging it so far. I've read lots of things that are magical, but I've read very few things that combine magic and literary fiction. So I'm excited. You guys want to get back into it?
Yeah.
All right, let's get back into it.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay. So let's go for longer this time. Let's go for 30 minutes this time.
Okay.
So we can get some real reading
Right.
in there. All right. How'd you guys do?
Well, I was able to read more this time around. And the thing is, when I did read,
Yeah.
I was way more immersed. Like, there's so much happening that one is like making me giggle when I read it because I'm just like, that's funny. But then I had to go and get my tabs because I'm gonna have to start tabbing stuff because I'm seeing certain things sticking out that I'm like, oh, I gotta remember this for later. So yeah, no, I'm only on page 22, but with these kind of texts, I read a little bit slower, so I'm taking it all in. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I've had to go back to read the first sentence to place myself, to understand that a lot of this is being told after the fact, which is putting me in a different headspace while I'm reading it. So yeah, this second portion I've thoroughly enjoyed.
Ooh, good. Okay, so things getting exciting. Are you still in chapter 1?
No, I'm in the second chapter. Just a page or so in though.
Sarah did a 20-minute yoga class.
Nice.
That's awesome. Sarah is always fit. Well done,
Yes.
Sarah.
Sarah MG reads.
Yes.
Nice.
Yep.
And Victoria finished chapter 1 and she's liking it. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm
Oh, hey,
about
Angie.
where Danny is. Right at the beginning of the second chapter.
You guys are so fast. I'm just having a bad focus day and I'm just not able to focus at the moment. But I know once I slip into a world, then I can stay there. But like my social brain and my reading brain don't mix very well,
Yeah.
which isn't hosting a reading sprint and not being able to read is a little silly, but it's just fun to launch it all together. So, probably later tonight I'll be able to get into it more like focused. So, Rich, sorry, go ahead. Were you going to say something, Mommy?
I was going to ask Danny what she tabbed, because she said that she tabbed stuff, right?
Oh, so we were talking about where the magic is in this. So when I had started, I was like, I don't see any magic. I just see, chemistry or science. And then so the part that I tabbed is page 15 in my book, but it's the scene where the child basically prophesizes that the pot's going to fall over. And I was like, magic! So I had to tap that because I'm like, okay, I need to start finding where the magic is so that it connects for me in my head.
Mm-hmm.
It's so casual.
Well, there's also the magic of the ship being stuck and then laden up on the ground with a whole garden and everything growing through it. 4 days walk from the sea.
Yeah. And also I feel like the magical moments in the entire book is that scene where they see ice. And
Yes.
Jose Arcadio says, "This is the great invention of our time."
Mm-hmm.
Like he
That's
invented
the point
it.
where I had to go back. I had to go back to the first sentence because when I read that, I was like, wait, this is significant for some reason. And I went back and I was like, okay, I'm getting it now. This is all being foretold.
But one of the things I think the books do is that, as we've said, the magical feels mundane, but also the element of the mundane feeling absolutely magical. Like the ice being the most shocking experience that these you can imagine having.
Yeah, and how would they even make ice at the? I mean, we don't have a good idea of what the year is, but we get the what is right on the first page, when time was the most recent.
Right.
What it's,
right.
And so there's not electricity. I mean, there's not anything to freeze something with, and they're in a tropical climate.
Right.
They're in a hot place, and they have this giant, block of ice there. Well, how long is that going to last? How'd they even make it in the first place. Just good stuff. Good stuff. And we're learning about the patriarch of the family, the patriarch as a young man, and there's a lot of there's a ways to go for sure.
I really enjoy the scenes with Ursula though. I feel like she's so strong and like she's very disparaging on
Ursula?
on her husband. Yeah. But I love that because I feel like a lot of times in certain time frames the woman is very like nothing good about her, or she's obsolete. And I think for her in this book, she sticks out to me as just being a very unique individual.
Sure.
So I like whenever she pops up in the story.
I think
really
what I got. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Noah. Go ahead.
It's all good. I want to say that I think what I got from that first chapter is that the patriarch of the family there, he's the leader, but the woman is the rock. She's the rock of the family. She's the level headed. She's the one that's that's maintaining, that's concerned with stability, and he's the dreamer, but he's also a leader, a serious leader, even in his most wild dreaming and going off the rails. If he wants to do something, the guys in the town just fall in line behind him for sure. So
yeah, I think oh, sorry.
Oh, that's good. I'm good.
Oh, I was just gonna. There was a really interesting, it was very compelling. They're leaving somewhere, and she says that they should stay, and she says something about, because he says you don't need to stay unless people are in the ground.
Right.
And she says, well, then I will die for you all to stay. And I just thought that was so raw and moving, and I think the soul of most. For me, I think it's a motherly, a nurturing kind of thing to sacrifice oneself for your family, for what you believe is the best for them. So that was really moving for me.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with that.
And you were talking about Jose and his wife as the patriarch and his wife. Okay.
Yes, and
Okay.
Ursula.
Okay.
Is the one.
What do you think, Christy?
Don't ask. I don't have thoughts yet.
How far did you get?
I'm not very far yet.
I'm a slow reader, especially with something like this. I don't go fast. I actually did try that last sprint there to really read. To read. I wanted to get to the second part, so that's when I got to the second part. I got up and hit the head real quick and changed the record. So I wasn't looking to go too fast. But if I'm reading this on my own personally, I'm at a leisurely pace with it.
Yeah, that's me too. Because I was trying to read, and I would be kind of zoning out for a minute. But instead of just going on, which is how I have to generally make progress if I'm struggling, I'm like, no, this is too good. I have to go back and reread it. So I'm just not in the right headspace yet. But I know I'm gonna love it. I can already tell.
There's so much beautiful images and things that are just brought out even in that first chapter. And I think I wanna say something about this, but then I'm not gonna remember those just perfectly unless I'm sitting there tabbing or something. But just even in the way that the the banks of the river and stuff are described, like on the first page, you got this pristine, untouched, riverbed, and they make their town over there, but it's so small. And then it's like the description of this swamp with just a thick film of vegetation over the whole thing, and it's just like, well, and then there's like a huge mountain range to the east. It's like there's everything right here. Like, what is happening right now? You know what I mean? Like, what is this landscape? What it really seems like an amalgamation. That there's
Yeah.
just,
I,
it's so hard to get your bearings, and like, look, even the time frame. That's what jumped out at me the most of this first chapter here is, we start off of in a reminiscence of seeing the ice by the older son, and he's in front of a firing squad, and then we get the older son at like 5 years old when the magnets were being dragged through the town or something, and then we get the older son at 14 years old. We get a whole section of the founding of the um and the expedition that's being led by the patriarch Jose. And I mean, it's just like you're all over the place. Well, what time is it? You know what I mean? We don't have any clue. It's just time. We're in time, and we just kind of. I think that's the biggest thing that I can say that with this book, it's an experience. It's not so much try to figure out what's going on with every page. Just an experience,
Yeah. And the psychological elements I think are so powerful in this book. And just like every chapter has its own unique texture and its own unique, you know, uh, choreography or whatever. But like in this first chapter, the obsession of Jose Arcadio and like contrasted with like how grounded Ursula is. And then also we get the sense of like the way in which Macondo is like isolated and cut off, and how like Jose is like so like despondent about like not being in communication with like the modern world.
right? I
And
think he's
then like
missing out.
right. And chapter one I think is when they set out to search for the passage, right? To like to another to the city, to the capital, and they fail, and there's like that deep sense of like lost and like aloneness already,
Right.
and it's like sort of like this sense of like grasping of like where are we, like who are we, like what are we doing here, like even from the first chapter it's like I feel like it's very very powerful, and that feeling changes. It's not, it's, every chapter has its own unique kind of psychological elements like that I think are always like really powerful.
Right.
you
Yeah, I
guys
think
have
that's
been
good for
convincing.
perspective.
Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
Oh, good. I said I think that's good for perspective, just to kind of it, keep in mind in reading it, because it is that kind of thing. Gabriel Garcia Marquez is totally he knows what he's doing. He knew what he was
Yes.
doing with it.
I think you guys have convinced some people to buy a copy. We've got Stephanie from Miss Richard Reads and Krista from Books and Jams buying a copy tonight.
Nice.
And
Nice.
you've convinced Nolan, sorry. Earlier he was like, every time you guys say Noah, I think you're saying my name.
Right.
Nolan is now convinced that he doesn't want to read it.
He's like, yeah, not my thing, guys. Better you than me, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, it be like that. Literature be like that.
Yes.
It's all good.
It's good
Well,
to
I think there's a lot to be said about that. You see this all over BookTube, as there are so many different channels and there's so many different readers out there. There are some readers out there that a book like this completely turns them off. They're like, I don't want to have to think about it. I just want to read the book. I just want to enjoy it. I just want to be like, read it, done, yay, it's over. Whereas for me, I like that. And don't get me wrong, there are times when I want to open a book, finish it, and be done with it. But a book like this is one of those books for a reader like myself who has been taught to read, who has criticized books for many, many years, that this is the kind of book that you dive into, that you soak yourself in, that you
Right.
like small sentences, 5-word sentences mean the entire book. And we get so engrossed in the most simplistic and the most like complex ideas, and we will sit and talk about them for hours. You know, when I read a book, I think to myself, like, I could create an entire class based on this chapter. You know, it's
Right.
interesting. And when we see the different channels talk about these books, that is the best part of it all, because we all have seen something differently as we walk into these pages, as we explore. You know, my idea of what magic is in this book has been completely different from what you guys have seen. When you guys are talking about the ice, I'm just like, yeah, it's ice. They have ice. And you guys, it's like, it's
Right.
magic, you know. So I love that, because it makes me go back and go, it is magic, because to them it's non-existent, it's not a thing, it's not real. So it is, it's a fantasy, it's fantasy born to life, and that is magic. So it's just it's so amazing to have those ideas brought to the table, to have a different perspective, and to enlighten your own ideas to a higher level. So I know a lot of us out there just like, oh yeah, Danny, quiet, just read the book and enjoy it. And then
I
they're like,
think you got it just right, Danny.
Yeah, that I agree. That was very, yeah, exactly right, Danny. You said something similar about Crime and Punishment too, where it's like there are books like you were talking about that you just want to read and have fun and then be done, and then there's the ones that you have to soak yourself in to understand. I think Crime and Punishment really kind of grabs you from the beginning, but it's like the same kind of thing. It's may not be the book for everybody, but if you can get into it, man, it's like it's an experience. Rich, how are you doing on Crime and Punishment? You commented earlier, but I it's lost now.
Is there a schedule for the group read? Well, you know, I have a feeling we're pretty much all gonna be pretty much in line with each other. Us six, you know, might be pretty much in line with each other with how quick we get through it. We're gonna take the whole month. I wanna take the whole month for the read and not do the live until the end of the month. No matter who finishes or what, you know, we'll do it once everybody's finished. And I want to do at least 2 videos, so I'll probably do a video maybe next week, maybe the week after, and then do a video, you know, a week after that, exploring different aspects of what I'm getting out of the text, and maybe some of the stuff that we touch on in the discussion, just depending on what all comes out, and then we'll do of the month, whatever else in between there. Um, I couldn't say, you know. This depends on what comes up. I'm sure if I inspire Ami enough by saying something that's really interesting, he'll make a video that'll blow our freaking mind.
So true. That's
I
like
love
part
it.
of Ami's channel.
The
Where
feeling is so mutual.
Right.
You guys compliment me, but all the stuff that I see from you guys is amazing. So yeah, it's reciprocal. Totally a mutual community. So it's like a thrill to be a part of this community, is what I'm saying, and be involved in this discussion with you guys, and you know, it's wonderful.
This is super awesome, guys. Now, we have a few more comments to go through, but I know that the parents in this discussion might need to get going sometime very soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna bust. Are we looking to do another reading sprint?
It's up to you guys. If any of you want to stay with me, I might do one more. If you're all like, I really need to go, then that's totally cool.
Well, I'll bust when we when we start another reading sprint. I'll bust out.
I could
Okay.
do one more if anyone else wants to hang
I
around.
can
So
stay with you one more time.
Okay, cool. We'll do one more. And let's look at some more of the comments first, and then we'll get started on that. This is so fun. I don't want it to end. I love hearing your guys' thoughts on this. It's making me even more excited to keep reading. Oh,
Yeah,
yes. Okay,
for sure.
Laura says thank you for the explanation about the schedule. And I've gotten better at reading since meeting y'all.
Hey, that's mutual as well. I've gotten, you know, when I started BookTube 1 year ago, I said on my first video, or maybe my second video or something, I said I don't read more than one book at a time ever. You know, but now I have a main book and I have like a side book. You know what I mean? That I'm reading, just at my leisure on the side. But then I have one that's like a main focus, and so I've expanded the way that I read, just from BookTube and the people that we, interact with all the time.
Yes. I want to say too, Evie, she's like a really new booktuber and she hangs around a lot in Alan of Alexandria's Discord and she's super cool. You guys should check out her channel. So it sounds like she had a similar experience as you did, Noah, where she's read two and one of them she was like, about, and then the other one she liked. You said that you didn't love in the Time of Cholera, right, Noah?
Right. Yeah,
So
I didn't. I mean, I read it right off the heels of reading 100 Years of Solitude, maybe a few months after my first reading of it, and just didn't like
Why?
it. It didn't resonate with me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was just the characters, you know what I mean, and me being a young reader, didn't like it. Didn't think it was. I just didn't think it was cool. You know what I mean? It didn't have what 100 Years of Solitude had. I was, looking for that, looking for something more metaphorical,
Mm-hmm.
So if we were starting with Marquez, you guys would say start with this one.
Yeah.
100 Years.
Oh yeah.
But I actually did love in Time of Cholera a lot. And then Reads and Rides mentioned also another two that I remember loving. I love Chronicle of Death Foretold, and also I don't remember it well, but I don't remember disliking Memories of My Melancholy Horse, so I'm sure I liked it. But
I've never come in contact with that one. Chronicle of Death Foretold, I have.
Yeah.
It's so crazy because I've heard of these, like all of them, and I haven't read them. It's like, why?
Well, and
They're
that's
big
why
names.
I picked up Love in the Time of Cholera, because for those of you who know, I mean, I only buy my books at thrift stores, really. I mean, no, it took everything in me to go and buy this at Barnes and Noble, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be more than $2. Oh my gosh. But thankfully I had a gift card, so I didn't feel as bad. But I mean, I find
I remember that haul
at thrift stores. So I had found Love in the Time of Cholera, I think at a Goodwill for like $1.50. And that's when Noah had saw that on my channel and mentioned this. But that was the only one that I had really heard of a lot. And then when you had mentioned this one, I was like, oh, I think I've heard of that one as well. I just have never read anything by him. So I'm hoping that this read goes well. And so far it has, because I'd like to jump into to Love. I saw Sarah MG read. She said she wants to read that one too. Sarah, I'll do a buddy read with you if you want to do Love in the Time of Cholera after this.
Buddy reads happening.
It's appropriate for COVID.
Yeah. Yes.
I bet.
What I love, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that in that book, there's such an amazing effect of like foreground and background, because like the foreground is like drama between characters and love, and unrequited love and waiting. But like in the background, there's like a cholera plague going on, and like people are dying, and there's like all this like narrative, like it's not part of the narrative, but like in the background, there's all stuff happening around like the fact that like bodies are like piling up,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like very interesting effect. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no. To kind of go along with that, we Kate Howe had a read along, and I think Christy, you did this as well, with Secret Garden back in March of 2020, and I thought I had read that book, and I knew that I had seen like the 90s version of the movie, but that book starts in India with cholera, and I was just like, oh my gosh, we're reading a pandemic book during the pandemic. And then of course it all changes,
right.
Goes to England, and then it's all, gardens and whatnot. But that beginning scene, the way that they set that up, it just you don't realize the impact of such a disease, something of which they're literally bodies just piling up, and not like literally and figuratively. They're just, yeah. So this year's been, or last year, it was a little bit crazy, but I feel like I'm over that mental, wall of, yeah, I'm not going to read anything like that right now. So something like that, I think, would be a great read, just because it seems like such an impactful read because of the nature of something so horrific, but love being so pure as that, juxtaposition between the two. So I'm kind of eager to read it now that I've started to see some of the way he writes. So, yeah.
I wouldn't be opposed to revisiting Love in the Time of Cholera because, I've become a whole different reader. I mean, kind of like thinking about drama, that might be a real big reason why I was turned off as a young reader uh to it. But, like Anna Karenina, I love that, reading it earlier this year. That's like a soap opera. It was like I was just like, man, this is like, scandal. And it was so fun and great. So especially with just like coming into contact with more writing and getting a feel for good writing and appreciating writing itself, um, then I wouldn't be opposed to revisiting that after, down the road a little bit, Danny, if you want to jump into Living the Time of Cholera for sure.
Sounds good.
It'd be fun. All right,
cool.
I'm gonna bust out. I'll let y'all get on to the next reading sprint.
All righty.
Bye,
Thank you
Noah.
so much, Noah.
Thank you.
Good
Have a good
seeing you,
night.
Thank you, Danny. Thank you, Christy, for hosting,
Yeah.
and everybody in the chat. Very cool. And
Talk to you soon.
bye.
All right, you guys. Well, let's get back to it. We'll just read. We'll do another shorter one just to finish off the night and finish off a little chat.
Sounds good.
Sounds
All
good.
right. We're back. How'd you guys do? And what is everybody working on in the chat? How you guys doing? Did you get anything done?
I didn't get much farther. But yeah, I'm about 4 pages to
Do you
the
prefer
next
longer
chapter.
sprints normally, Danny?
I don't really have.
Okay.
I think I've done like 1 or 2 sprints on my channel. I think. I don't even remember. I participate in so many things that I don't even remember what's on my channel or your channel or their channel. I'm just like, so I've been part of sprints that are short. I've been part of sprints that are long. So I think this book is just different because I'm reading it slower. So because there's so much in each page that it's hard to just fly through. Because you're really absorbing a lot of world building, of the psychosis that's happening with these characters, and trying to grasp the time frame. For me, I'm always like, it's so weird. I'm always thinking about like, when is this happening, so that I can really place like the world and where it is. So that for me is sometimes slows me down a little bit too, because I'm really taking in certain words, certain aspects of the text. So like the portion that I've just read there, something had occurred where they decided to move their village somewhere else. So that in itself of moving their land to a different land. And there's a line in there that said something like, but it was not promised to them. So this is indicating that they're nomadic in a sense, that they're moving to a different location and that's gonna be the new town. And I guess the freedom of that, so to speak, is just really intriguing to me, because it just shows how early this text is, because there's land to be moved, I guess you could say. So like they cross the mountains to form a new village, I guess you could say. So at least that was my interpretation.
It is interesting because some people know the world is round and other people, like, that's a revelation. So yeah, it's like, when is this happening? But like Noah said, I'm just trying to experience it.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Ami?
Yeah, that was a great sprint. I'm at a really, really great part of the book. But picking up on some of the things you guys were saying, I feel like in some ways the book happens sort of out of time. But of course, like that's not a satisfactory like answer, because like there is some technology and stuff, right? So I feel like the book starts in a pre-modern world and ends in the modern world. So it's about that transition, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned like ownership of land, like moving, to find a new land. That actually is a theme I think worth following throughout the whole book, of like land ownership, because you know and governance in general, because that's something that really evolves. What does it mean to own land in the beginning versus the middle versus the end of the book? And these sort of questions come up a lot. So yeah, I mean, what that tells me is that like you're noticing all the right things that like Gabriel Garcia Marquez probably wants you to notice, like, and because these are like the threads that he's sort of like the seeds that he's planting that really follow, will carry you throughout the book.
I think he's good at planting seeds. That's a good way to put it. Okay, yeah. I'm really shocked that your library doesn't have that, Krista. What?
Yeah.
Also, Victoria just finished reading an awkward scene.
I can think of one. She probably just finished.
Oh my gosh.
I think that's one thing that I really like about good authors. I don't want an author to tell me what I'm supposed to be knowing in each scene. I want them to set it up, and I want them to let me follow those and do it in such a way that I feel like I I have figured it out, I guess you could say. So when I read a book, and when I'm done with that book and I consider that book either good or bad or whatever, it is always about how the author was able to help me understand what they meant. Not just tell me this is what this book is about and this is what you should have learned from this book. And I feel like the setup, the very small pieces of dialogue, the intricate threads that are happening, we're seeing this generational thing happening here. And I think in the beginning too, you have that family tree, which whenever a book has that, I think it is very important because that is your first key to knowing that this book is about ancestry and that generational line and the significance of that. And I think with Ursula and her first kind of hesitation in marrying Jose because of their ties in ancestry, and then the awkward scene that Victoria is probably talking about, and they keep bringing it up, like if we have iguanas, we raise iguanas, you know. So I think that I feel is going to be a thread here as well, especially because the first sentence, you know, talks about someone thinking back to their childhood and the significant memories from that. So I just feel like the familial bonds are going to continue through the full entirety of the book. So, and I've been drawn to that so far in reading.
Evie agrees.
I'll just add one more thing. In this last reading sprint, when I was reading, I kept thinking about Danny's point from the beginning about how strong a character Ursula was, because I had forgotten how she is such a pillar in this book, you know. And like obviously I'm a little bit further in the book than you are, so I'm not going to give any more details than that, but like I just kept thinking, oh my god, that was such an astute observation, because she's such an amazing character in this book. So yeah.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I just love her name too. I just feel like for me, being, you know, a 90s child, you know, growing up in the 90s, I was born in the 80s, but, you know, you really grow up in the 90s. You know, Ursula, the only Ursula you know is Ursula from, you know, Little Mermaid. But
I never
but since being a reader, Ursula has come up in many texts that I've seen that I can't think of right now, obviously. But then I also think of Ursula Le Guin. Or Gwyn. I always say Quinn. It's Gwyn. And I love that name. I feel like it is such a powerful name, and not in a villainous way like we see in The Little Mermaid. But I just feel like it is a name of power, and I wonder if it does have. I wonder if the name does mean anything in that way. If it is a name that holds power, because to me it just seems like such a firm name, and I really love it. I can't imagine her being any other name. It just fits so well.
Sure.
I think he does a really good job with describing character. Like, I haven't gotten to a part where Ursula is super she's not you get the point that she is impatient with her husband's dreams. She just wants him to like take care of the family, please. So I haven't gotten to anything yet that's like super characterizing her other than that yet. But I do love how he's characterizing people. He has Jose as the dreamer, trying out all of the fake things that he gets sold, you know, the snake oil stuff. And then there's Melquiades,
Melquiades, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
he's like he's a world traveler essentially who comes and like sells him the wares. He sells Jose the stuff, some of the stuff. But I like the description of him of Melquiades. It talks about how he's like super thin and he looks way aged between like the first visits that he made to this village. He looked like the same age as Jose, and then when he comes back, he looks like super aged. And it's like it's like one of the several things in this book so far. It's like they could have like almost magical implications where like when you read science fiction and fantasy, it's like, is he a time traveler? Like, you know, like what's going on here? But like it, and then it goes on and says it's because he's been to all these lands where there's all of these diseases that he caught, and he has like multiple diseases that are like wasting him away, which is like, I don't know, just the way he describes people, it really is. It makes them stand out, and it's very interesting, and it kind of adds this air of, even though he's explaining it, it's still mysterious, you know, and interesting. There's just like a draw there that makes you like want to hear more, you know. So I like how he's doing it so far. I don't feel like I'm explaining this very well, but I really am enjoying that. And he wore a large black hat that looked like a raven with widespread wings. It's like Neville's grandma in Harry Potter. That's what that made me think of. So I'm really enjoying this. I think once I get into it and once I really sink into it, I'm really going to enjoy it. So I hope everybody was enjoying what they were doing and reading. It looks like some people definitely got some stuff done, which is awesome to hear. Naomi reorganized her bookshelves. That's awesome.
Yeah, I have to get to that.
That was on your goals, huh, Daddy?
Oh, man. It's so bad.
Yeah, mine. I never really organized mine. They just are what they are.
Well, what ends up happening is I buy all these books and then I just like stack them on the shelves. So like it's just in front of all of my nice looking shelves, and then there's just like stacks in front of them. So I really just need to, and they're really disorganized. Like there's no rhyme or reason. I think I did the last time I actually like reorganized the shelves, they were by color. And then now there's like those, but then there's all these stacks of other books just randomly in there because I needed somewhere to put all these books. So I just need to reorganize it. But I got a lot of really great recommendations on that video. So I'm excited to try a few of those recommendations on my shelves. So yeah.
Yes, awesome. Are you doing any like 2021 goals, Ami?
Yeah.
Have you done a video on it?
No, not video. But I guess this is the video that I'll reveal some of them.
Yes.
Meditation is a big goal, trying to get better at meditating. Fitness goals are a big one. Cooking more is a goal. Things like that.
Nice. So like holistic life goals.
Yeah.
That's good.
How about you guys?
I remember one of the first. What?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, I don't know.
Okay. The lag. I know. I get it. One of the first videos I saw on your channel, I like clicked on it, and you were like, "Okay, everybody on BookTube, ignore this. I'm doing like a physical fitness challenge." I forget what it was, like pull-ups or something. It was really funny. Yeah, I'm doing some holistic goals as well for my whole life. But I'm planning on. I have a script for my video. I just have to film it and edit it and upload it. So probably tomorrow.
One more goal I forgot to mention is definitely more writing. I want to like recommit myself to writing. So a lot of goals.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's good to have a lot of goals because that way, if you don't meet some of those goals, you can at least say you got these goals over here done.
Yes.
Yeah, I have not. I think my next video is my goals video. But I have like a lot of BookTube and reading goals. But then I also have like, so over COVID, I ended up gaining about 25 pounds, which I don't need in my life. And I kind of felt not myself. And I think there's foods that are probably creating that feeling. So I've tried, or I've done the Whole30 diet before, and it's literally like a restart. So it's not like a diet in the sense that you do this forever. It's kind of like you restart because you take away a lot of like sugar and starches, a lot of things that could be creating those imbalances. So I kind of want to restart and then like come back to like fresh and raw foods. Because I think what's happening is I'm having a lot of foods that are creating, I don't know, I feel lethargic a lot, and there's a lot of different things that I feel. So I want to restart my system and be a little bit more active. I also want to write more. I started a blog last year in tandem with my booktube, and then COVID started and I just stopped. So I've been trying to write on there at least once a day, and just random thoughts, not really like full blown, anything. So, but I've been trying to do that. So far I have done it each day of 2021. So we're trying to stick on that. And then, just reading goals in general. Because that's always fun, but and trying not to be so hard on myself, because my husband says this a lot. He's like, you need to relax.
Yeah.
He is the very he is the dreamer in my family, and I am like the structured, no, we need to stop, and he's just like, you need to relax. So I'm trying to be more relaxed about things and not care so much. I am always guilty. I feel guilty about everything in my life. So I need to stop feeling guilty when it is out of my control.
That's something Noah talks about a lot, is like being kind of at peace, and I feel like he's really good at that. He's like the most peaceful person I know. But that's something I need to work on too. I'm usually like at some level of stress lately. Maybe it's because I stopped reading the Lotus Sutra. I need to get back to that. Anyways, okay, I should probably let you guys go. I don't want to contribute to your stress by keeping you up too late. So, this was so fun, guys. It looks like Krista shares your food goals, Danny. I don't know if Whole30 is all raw and like produce and stuff like that, but maybe you talk to her about it.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad I know someone else is doing it in January. Yeah, I gotta. It really. A lot of people consider it very prohibitive, but the way that I see it is there's a lot that you can have doing that, and so I look at the positive side of it, because that's always been my issue in not dieting, but like when you're trying to eat healthier, you're always thinking about I can't have, and you can't have a lot in the Whole30, but there's a lot that you can have that is actually fueling your body better than all of the preservatives, the additives, the sugars, all that jazz. So I try to look on the bright side, and that way it helps me through the 30 days, because I really like creamer in my coffee, and you cannot have that.
Oh,
so
that's rough.
I have to get used to drinking black coffee during that 30 days, which I do get used to, and it's actually not that bad. Into day 10, you're good.
Good job, Danny. You can do it. We believe in you. And Krista, and everybody with the holistic goals. We're going to have a better year. I'm confident. I'm not to jinx it or anything, but I think it's going to be a better year. And it's going to be a great month reading this. I'm really super glad to hear that some of you are going to join us. And there will be the live show at Noah's channel at the end of the month. So come hang out with us there if you end up reading. And this was really fun. Thanks for coming and hanging out. I'm glad everybody got some stuff done.
Yeah. Thank you so much for putting this together.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So nice. Definitely my first experience in this kind of format. So It was really really cool.
Nice. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Well, I'm glad it was with us. We really appreciated you being here. Okay, guys, we will do this again soon. I'm going to try and do some reading sprints, maybe like monthly on my channel. So be looking out for that. Definitely check out Noah's channel and Ami's channel and Danny's channel. They're all linked down below. And I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Christy.
Bye-bye.